Wow. That was my first initial reaction upon reading this article. And it addresses something that has long been rumored now, and it seems like it could possibly blow the whole lid off of this thing. Welcome back to WMMA Now with your host, Chuck Stevenson, coming at you with very interesting news here. So this article was published on October 16th by MMAfighting.com. I believe it was a day before Istela Nunes made her... Well, it was the same day Istela Nunes made her UFC debut against Ariane Carnelossi, where she lost via submission in the third round. But it talks about her time in ONE, particularly the period when she challenged one quote-unquote Atomweight champion, Angela Lee, for the title. So look at this headline. It says, Istela Nunes to join UFC after being screwed by ONE in Angela Lee title fight. Quote, she missed weight. It says, Istela Nunes will finally make the walk to the octagon on Saturday night, facing fellow Brazilian strawweight Ariane Carnelossi in the preliminary portion of UFC Vegas 40, and brings to the table previous experience as a title contender in ONE championship. That fight specifically, Nunes said, had controversial layers that were never made public. Nunes only had 5 professional bouts under her belt when she signed with ONE in 2016, defeating one of their top talents in Mei Yamaguchi to secure a shot at strawweight queen Angela Lee. Nunes lost via second-round submission, tapping to an anaconda choke, but said Lee should have been stripped of the belt. Quote, they kind of screwed me in my title fight, Nunes said in an interview with MMA Fighting. Lee didn't make weight. She was at 58 kilograms, 127.8 pounds. That should have been 30% fine of her purse, and they didn't give it to me. They screwed me. That's why I lost. I didn't want to fight. I wasn't obligated to fight, but they forced me to fight anyway, even if they didn't pay me the fine. ONE Championship did not immediately respond to MMA Fighting's request for comment. Fighters aren't allowed to dehydrate under ONE Championship's weight cutting system, and all divisions are 10 pounds heavier than in other promotions like the UFC and Bellator. The strawweight class, for example, is at 125 pounds rather than 115 pounds. ONE's weigh-in procedure isn't open to media or fans like with other promotions' weigh-ins, but the company has began to announce final weight and hydration results over the past few years. Lee's alleged weight miss was never announced, and the champion revealed afterwards she was battling pneumonia days before the event. I was going to fight because of the 30% fine, Nunes said. Lee was making $100,000, so 30% of that was $30,000. I said I'd fight. I said I saw there was a chance I'd beat her, but then they didn't pay me. Anyway, they favored her a lot. They still do, so that happened. I put that on my Instagram stories that day that she didn't make weight, she added. They said she made weight, but no one let me see it. When I saw the first time, she was way over, so you can't fight. ONE isn't like the UFC where you can dehydrate. We have weight goals all the way. If you're over that, there's no fight. She was way over. She couldn't even fight because it would count as dehydration. And they still favored her in every possible way. I was upset. 14 months after losing to Lee, Nunes fought out of her contract with the decision victory over Gina Inion. The Brazilian strawweight said ONE offered her a new deal, but she ultimately chose to part ways. I was tired. That stressed me out, but it was a great promotion, said Nunes, who loved fighting for ONE, and would have resigned the company if they didn't favor their guys so much. By their guys, Nunes means Asian fighters and athletes who train and represent Evolve MMA, a martial arts team founded by ONE Championship CEO Chatri Sityodtong. If there's a Brazilian against an Indian or whatever, they will try to favor the Indian, Nunes said. I don't know why. Laughs. I was in a way, it's always going their way. It says Nunes ended up signing with the UFC shortly after parting ways with ONE, but had to wait 2 years to make her debut after failing a drug test prior to her octagon debut. Nunes moved back from Florida to her mother's house in Atibaia, Brazil, and began working in a pet shop to make ends meet. Nunes considered retiring from the sport, but wasn't ready to give up her MMA dream. On Saturday night, she faces friend and former training partner Carnelossi in the UFC Vegas 40 curtain jerker. She's a good opponent, and I think it's going to be a good fight, Nunes said. She's a striker that also grapples, and we're ready. We can't choose opponents. It's my debut, but it's cool. Carnelossi's coach Manuel Adriano joked that dinner's on him after the fight, regardless of the result. So wow, this blows a lid on a lot of things, you could say. And I think it definitely reveals what a lot of people have been saying for a long time, that, one championship is going to favor certain fighters over others, which honestly every promotion does. But because one championship does a lot of things behind closed doors that other promotions do in the open, in front of people, and certainly in the US with a commission overseeing things, one gets away with a lot of things that other promotions could not. So let's take a look at this. It said Lee didn't make weight. She was at 58 kilograms, 127.8. So that is 12.8 pounds over the 115-pound limit for one's Atomweight division. And it said that Nunes should have received 30% of her purse, but they never did it. But she basically felt coerced to doing it. Like, had she thought she took the fight basically because she believed she was going to get that extra $30,000, and then she didn't. They didn't give it to her, so she felt really screwed and basically felt coerced to take the money. Now, this is not the only time that someone has brought this up here before. Okay, here is a post from Robert Sargent of MMArising.com, quoting the article here, and it says, Angela Lee also allegedly missed weight for her title defense against Mai Yamaguchi, which Chatri and ONE covered up so that Lee could keep her title. Even though ONE, quote, banned, end quote, weight cutting, Lee is allowed to do it, and she may or may not have made 115 at all since 2016. So here you come down to a response from Robert Sargent himself. It said, Lee posted photos of herself in a sauna cutting weight after the ban was in place. So yeah, only a few people have talked about this stuff on here in past years. Credit to Liquid Swords for making more people aware. And here right below it, you have Liquid Swords quoting a post from 2018 by Ryan Thomas MMA. It says, and in their first bout, Lee was once again cutting weight to reach the 115-pound limit. She missed weight before ONE offered Yamaguchi more money to take the fight. Without transparency, preferential treatment as this will continue. We demand transparency from ONE championship. And he posted a photo, and it's a message. It says, from this person, Anton, who wrote, if I offered her additional money, I am sure she should get it done. I understand, though, it is just disappointing. We always try our best to make it happen. But today, physically impossible. It was so insulting for us. I cannot forget today. So sad. We are not kind of people. We are not a beggar, Mayumi wrote, who represents Mai Yamaguchi. So Istela Nunes wasn't the only victim of this, as it was also, Mai Yamaguchi, who suffered from this before. Now here's a post from Jonathan of Kowloon and Cologne at Globe Services on Twitter from Fight Week a couple years back, and he's quoting himself, and it is pictures of Angela Lee in a sauna from her Instagram right before fights, and that was June of 2018. A quick search shows that June of 2018, she was due to fight. That was right after the Mai Yamaguchi fight. So she was cutting weight in the sauna, which fighters are not supposed to be doing in ONE championship because they're not supposed to be dehydrating. But yet, there's evidence that she does it, and she kind of like flaunts it. So she's getting away with a lot here. And another bit of piece of evidence here that shows that Angela Lee probably is not a true 115-pounder at all. If you remember, when she first fought Seongjin Nan, Lee fought her at in Sion's weight class of 125 pounds, and even Sion Jingnan made comment to the media that she was surprised that Lee seemed bigger than her, because Lee was supposed to be moving up in weight for that fight. But Sion said that Lee honestly seemed bigger than her. Like when they faced off, she was surprised at Lee's size. So this brings back questions again to how exactly does this so-called no dehydration weigh-in system work, where everyone has to weigh in hydrated to a certain point. So here is another tweet from @GlobeServices. It's a screen capture of an Instagram post from John Wayne Parr. Now, John Wayne Parr made his one debut, I believe it was earlier this year, in a kickboxing bout, or maybe Muay Thai bout, against Nikki Holskin. It says, well, my first hydration test was a complete disaster. I was hoping I could find a loophole in the system for an advantage, but it ended up costing me big time. I woke up 77.2 kilograms weigh-in day. I went down to the treadmill and got down to 76 kilograms, hoping I'd be able to drink a liter of water to be hydrated. But after losing 8 kilograms in 4 days, I was ridiculously dry and dehydrated and failed hydration test by a mile. The One Championship staff suggested I drink 2 liters of water to hydrate, then go straight to treadmill to run it off. I was now 77.8 kilograms. So for the second time that day, I put on my sweat clothes and ran on treadmill for an hour. When I went to check my weight again, now 76.3 kilogram and easily under the 77 kilogram limit. Problem was I still failed hydration test. That was at 4 p.m. The staff said second weigh-in will be at 8 p.m. The staff told me, you have already lost 20% of your prize money, so weight no longer an issue. You need to drink plenty of water until you pass hydration test, otherwise you're not allowed to fight. It says weigh-in started 1 p.m. after drinking 4 liters of water and 6 failed hydration tests. I didn't pass hydration test until 11 p.m. that night, and now finally the fight was officially on. I started the day 76 kilograms, but they don't take official weight until you pass hydration test, and after 4 liters of water came in at 80 kilograms. Massive lesson learned on my part. Because of my hip, I couldn't run, and because I couldn't run, my weight didn't move. I'll rectify this problem for my next camp so this doesn't happen again. And goes on to apologize to One Championship and his opponent and how he's going to rectify it. So, okay. It says, from what I'm understanding from this, JWP made the 77 kilogram, but he failed hydration. But he was told weight was no longer an issue, and he was already fined, so now he has to pass the hydration or no fight. But upon finally passing hydration, he was up to 80 kilograms, which is 3 kilograms or 6.61 pounds over what he was supposed to weigh. So basically, as long as he passed the hydration, they no longer cared what he weighed. How does that make sense? How are you supposed to make weight and be hydrated, but then they tell you, oh, well, you already lost a certain percentage of your purse, and so now you don't have to worry about making weight, just worry about hydration. So then you can basically weigh whatever you want as long as you're going to make the hydration. Well, if they're letting John Wayne Parr do that, well, then no wonder they were letting Angela Lee get away with everything. I mean, it only makes sense. So now we have at least 2 different occasions that Angela Lee should have been stripped of her title on the scales, but she wasn't. They still masqueraded her fights as title defenses, and she got away with it because no one really knew, and people were afraid to really say anything, at least at the time. So obviously One Championship is heavily favoring Angela Lee, and have been for a number of years now. Now, I want to address the critics before they get to us. Now, some people are going to say, well, this is just sour grapes from Istela Nunes. Possibly, but she's very detailed for someone who is just complaining over sour grapes. Because, I mean, for her to even remember the numbers and everything, that's a lot of specificity for someone that is just making this up and complaining. And also, why is she complaining after all these years? Obviously, she still feels a bit of a grudge towards ONE, and probably Angela as well. Now, for the people that are just going to say, oh, people just like to hate on the Lees. People just hate that they're so favored by ONE. A lot of people just like to hate on the Lees. And there are people, both fans and media members, that will go to bat for ONE and will go to bat for ONE Championship because, well, a lot of their coverage revolves around ONE. And so they have to kind of defend it. I'm sorry, there is simply no defending this. When more and more people are coming out and talking about this, and people are coming out, I mean, there's an article being written on one of the biggest MMA websites, MMA Fighting, of a fighter with first-hand experience, plus the experience of others have shown throughout the years. There's really no dodging this at this point, that Angela Lee is simply not making the weight that she's supposed to when she fights. I mean, they call her a so-called Atomweight champ, but here she is. She's missing strawweight by over 12 pounds. I'm sorry. There's simply no defending it anymore. It is time for people to start calling for more accountability from ONE Championship. And if they come to the U.S., they're going to have to be accountable, because as soon as they come to the U.S., and we already know they have plans to, once they come to the U.S., they are under the oversight of a third-party, unaffiliated athletic commission. So the moment they set foot on U.S. soil, their weigh-ins, testing that they don't do, everything comes under third-party scrutiny from the athletic commissions. So if ONE does proceed to enter the U.S., it's going to be very, very interesting, especially if Angela Lee happens to fight in the U.S. So that's all I really have on this subject. I just thought that this was a good article by Guillermo Cruz at GUICRUZZZ on Twitter, over at MMAfighting.com, and I will link it in the description below. So go ahead and let me know your thoughts in the comments, and go ahead and like the video if you like the video. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to WMMA Scene Now, the most complete women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.